single legislation. But the interesting thing is cooperation being a state subject in India, you have multiplicity of legislations, each state having its own law. And at the national level, you have a national law. And now to add to the complexity, in some states, you have dual legislations. So it's very interesting to see this kind of a domain. And I think Sagar has done a wonderful work of trying to put together highlights of these legislations. So we will see how the key elements of these legislations are shaping up in India and what challenges are they posing. And I also hope that after the presentation, we will have some lively discussion and we will be able to draw examples from other countries as well. So I'm looking forward to a very enriching experience today. And welcome once again, all of you. Over to Naveen to take it further.
Thank you, sir. So, yes, we can proceed with today's session. And just for the information of all participants, we are also recording this session, and later on, we will be uploading this meetings video on our YouTube channel too. So, yes, it is being live streamed, but yes, the edited version will be later on uploaded on YouTube. So, Professor Dongre has already briefed about Dr. Sagar Vatkar enough, and I'm also delighted to say this that I had the opportunity to work with him for more than a year at National Cooperative Union of India. So that is a good opportunity for me to host him here. So I would request Dr. Sagar to start today's discussion, and would like to invite him to take the floor here.
Thank you, Naveen. Respected Professor Dongre, Chairman of ICAP's Committee on Climate Cooperative Research, respected Balu sir, Regional Director, ICAP, and my dear Naveen Kumar, Program Officer cum Secretary of this ICAP Committee on Cooperative Research, distinguished researchers, and esteemed participants. Good morning to everyone present here. I'm really deeply honored to have the opportunity to speak at this prestigious 10th Colloquium, Cooperative Colloquium, organized by ICAP Committee on Climate Cooperative Research. The theme of this gathering, the Harmonizing Cooperative Legal Framework, is not only timely, but yes, vital as we collectively strive to build a resilient and people-centered economies in a rapidly changing world. And when we say about the Indian cooperatives movement, the Indian cooperative movement, as you all aware, one of the largest and most diverse globally, and has served as a strong pillar of economic democracy and social inclusion. With recognizing this potential and, of course, the significance of this movement as far as achieving sustainable development is concerned, the Government of India has established the Ministry of Cooperation on 6 July 2021 with the vision of taking this cooperative movement to a greater heights. And the ministry, since last 3 years, has been working actively for strengthening this cooperative movement across the country. So to further this goal, the ministry entrusted NCOI with the study to undertake, the comparison of the cooperative law which exists across the country. So drawing from a rich history and evolving landscape of cooperative laws in India, as well as the insights from this study, I'll be sharing a key lessons on how harmonized legal frameworks can enhance the governance, the good governance, foster inclusivity, and empower the cooperatives to meet the demands of the modern economy. So to begin with, let me emphasize that the cooperation in India is a way of life. As rooted in the ancient principle, that is the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is one family, this philosophy has deeply influenced the cooperative movement. making cooperation as an integral part of the societal fabric. And in this context, the cooperative identity, that is the values and principles, aligns with our cultural values of mutual help, collective decision-making, and shared prosperity. So in India, we have a federal system of government with both the states and center playing a role in lawmaking and policy. As far as cooperative legislation is managed by the states, while the cooperatives having the area of operation more than one state, it's managed by Multi-State Cooperative Society Act, central government. In contrast to the cooperative societies, the counterparts of the cooperatives, for them, we have a Companies Act, 1956-2013, which is designed primarily for the investor-owned companies and is managed by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, the central government level. So as according to the ILO's recommendation, the central government, playing a very important role, particularly after the formation of the Ministry of Cooperation, many efforts are being made to provide the level playing field to cooperatives. So many initiatives have been undertaken to increase the ease of doing business for the cooperatives. Besides, there are many preferential treatment and relaxations have been given to cooperatives so that they can thrive in the stiff competition. So I'll just quickly, though in the initial remark, Professor Dongre has mentioned, but I'll just quickly run through the legislative and then structural development in the Indian cooperatives just to set the context. So we started with the 1904 as an cooperative credit society, but as far as non-credit cooperatives are concerned, there were issues. So in 1912, the Cooperative Societies Act enacted. Followed by this, in 1919 onwards, this cooperation became state subject. So then the Bombay province developed their own Cooperative Societies Act, which became a model act for the other province and states post-independence. So during 1960s, we have the state-specific Cooperative Society Acts. And then cooperatives having more than one state as an area of operation, they have this multi-unit, which is now being called as a Multi-State Cooperative Societies Act, which has amended frequently to keep updated with the modern development. So in 1984, 2002, and recently last year also, the Multi-State Act got amended, which the government is trying to bring a transparency and accountability. In view of the overall developmental scenario, the government of India adopted the structural economic reforms, which the liberalization, privatization, globalization era started. And then the paradigm shifted towards the market-based economy. So since then, a lot of efforts and many committees recommended for the professionalization of the cooperatives and then focusing more on the business diversification and marketing of the services. So to give that kind of a freedom to cooperatives, the Model Cooperative Bill, which is enacted further as the Mutually Aided Cooperative Societies Act, passed in 1995, which is also widely known as Self-Reliant Cooperative Societies. But that again adopted by only 8 provinces, and it is a kind of a dual legislation in those 8 states. So they have their own Traditional Cooperative Societies Act also, and then this parallel legislation. But after 3 decades, almost 3 decades after, we also could not get any success story or good model out of the Mutually Aided or Self-Reliant Cooperative Societies Act. So probably what I feel, complete freedom to board of directors is also not good to that extent, because the autonomy of directors resulted into a monopoly of those directors, and which has increased a distance between the directors and then the member, the user of the cooperative services. So that is again a very issue. So to keep to provide more options to the people of India, particularly the producers, the agricultural producers, and then other producers, in view of the overall agricultural development in India, because by 1990 we became a food secured nation. So the value addition, processing, those kind of needs being felt by the producers and then cooperative members. So to provide options, then the Ministry of the Government of India basically, established the Producers Company Act, which is the amended from the Indian Companies Act, which gives more autonomy to the farmers and then to the members. But this Producers Company Act is again what I see, it's old wine in new bottle. It's again based on the values, philosophy, and principles of the cooperatives. So that this movement is also going on in India. It is commonly known as Farmer Producers Organization. To further strengthen these community-based enterprises, cooperatives, and FPO, in 2011, then Government of India amended the Constitution. That is the 97 Constitutional Amendment, wherein the many good practices which I'll be discussing in my subsequent slides. So two most important provisions they have made it in the Constitution. So by Constitution, now Indian citizens are getting this fundamental right to form and promote cooperative societies. And now in 2021, 3 years back, now the ministry is there, full-fledged ministry. Though we have cooperatives in more than 14 sectors, having federal and unitary structure, for which we have their own respective ministries and department to look after. But then Ministry of Cooperation, the key role of this Ministry of Cooperation is to bring the coordination and convergence so that the ease of doing business can be enhanced. And as far as the ensuring good governance and transparency and accountability is concerned, providing level playing field to cooperatives is concerned, the ministry is undertaking many initiatives. So we have the presence in 14 sectors. Besides, there are 5 national level cooperative societies. So as and when demand comes from the cooperator, or when the central government feels that there is a need to have some kind of a mechanism in any given sector, the central government has power to establish a national level cooperative societies. So during the time of Green Revolution, while achieving the food security during 1960s, the IFCO and CRIFCO as a national level cooperative society is established just to have a manufacturing of the fertilizer and in its distribution to cooperative network. Followed by this, last year, in view of climate change and then sustainable development, particularly maximum are agriculture and allied sector cooperatives. So to provide the forward and backward linkages, this Bharatiya Bij Sahkari Samiti, that is the National Seed Cooperative Society, has been established. So this will work with the ICAR, Indian Council of Agriculture Research, the research institutions, Ministry of Agriculture, so that they can disseminate the climate resilient varieties and then they can ensure the sustainable agricultural practices, followed by the organic, National Cooperative Organic Limited. And all types of cooperatives have some kind of, the potential as far as the export market is concerned. But because of, stiff competition and then cartel of the exporters, so this National Cooperative Export Limited established. So all types of cooperatives can get a membership of this NCEL, and so that they can, export their products. So for all these sectoral cooperatives, though we have a presence in tourism, transport, health cooperatives, for all of them, we have a general common law, respective state cooperative societies law, except housing, and that too in one of the province only in the Maharashtra. They have introduced a separate chapter within the Maharashtra State Cooperative Societies Act. So this is the broader structure of Indian cooperative movement. So on the right-hand side, you can see the federal structure from the primary village level to the national level. And every level, every tier has their own role, responsibility. On left-hand side, you can see the district cooperative union and state cooperative union, which is basically play a promotional role and strengthening and deepening cooperative movement in their respective area of operation. The cooperatives are being regulated and monitored by the State Cooperation Department, as I mentioned, headed by the Register of Cooperative Societies, followed by the other officials who support in that functioning. And as far as central government level, central registrar is there under the Ministry of Cooperation. As far as the cooperative banks are concerned, we have a dual legislation. So they have to follow the respective State Cooperative Societies Act as well as the Banking Regulation Act. So based on our learnings while comparing the major provisions of the State Cooperative Societies Act, I have divided those provisions into these 5 categories, which the provisions which helps in improving the ease of doing business, management and electoral reforms, transparency, accountability, professionalism, and progressive enabling role of the government. So I'll going in detailing of those one by one. First, registration is very important. So the online registration, bylaws amendment, compliance. So only in 9 states we have these online provision. But still the process is yet to be digitized. But yes, after the formation of the ministry, they have established the online platform, starting from registration, amendment, and compliance. So that disposal of that application can be enhanced. Besides, the central government has also started the central sponsored scheme so that the computerization of all state cooperation department can be undertaken in order to improve the ease of doing business. In the current ecosystem, state to state, this period varies. The application disposal period, that is 30 days to 120 days. And once the application did not process during this period of time, then it is deemed to be registered. So, but when we see this duration in comparison to the cooperatives counterparts, that is the private players, wherein in India, the disposal period is hardly 7 days to 15 days. So we need to have more focus on reducing this time period so that the cooperatives can immediately start their activities. Because while registration, it is mandatory to submit their business plan also. So whatever estimates we are making in those business plan, till the time we get registered our cooperatives, by that time, many private players are also coming into that space where basically we have identified a gap. So in order to have that kind of a flexibility, I think there is a need to further reduce this, registration period. In terms of the minimum number of members, so the minimum requirement is 10 to 30 people. And when we comes to the multi-state, it is 50 member from 2 states, that is the 100 member. So as far as the traditional cooperatives are concerned, this requirement is okay. But it becomes challenging if you want to venture into the innovative cooperative startup, and particularly in new emerging sectors. So we need a very detailed research in view of Indian cultural and then population scenario. What should be the best number for registering the cooperative startups and venturing into a new and emerging sectors. Coming to the management and electoral reforms, starting with the membership. Again, there is a variation in terms of disposal period, application disposal period for getting the membership. Plus, there is a provision of deemed to be member. But this deemed membership promotes inclusivity, but then again, it's raising concern about the member engagement and overall cooperative health, because it's not only about getting membership and then having a share into a cooperative. It's all about the member participation. So there are provisions related to ensuring the member participation, like if members disqualify if they fail to transact minimum business and use of services, and if they fail to attend minimum 2 to 3 consecutive general body meetings. However, as of now, the monitoring system is not well in place. So tracking of such non-compliant member or else the member who are non-user is becoming challenge. And many times we have observed that the member who are not users, they are basically into a governance, and they are leading the organization. Coming to the next provisions, collaboration, partnership, and subsidiary. This is found a very good provision. So the government collaborates with the societies. So let's take an example of IFCO and CRIFCO. For manufacturing fertilizer, government gives subsidy to IFCO and CRIFCO so that the farmers get timely fertilizer at the subsidized price. Similarly, to stabilize the prices of commodities, we have a marketing cooperatives and consumer cooperative, that is the NAFED and National Agriculture Cooperative Marketing Federation and National Consumer Cooperative Federation, wherein they procure and then, are into sales and distribution of the commodities, different commodities. Partnership, the two and more cooperative societies can come together and do a business together, share their resources and expertise. Similarly, there is a challenge for capital infusion. Only members can infuse capital as far as the provisions are concerned. But yes, in multi-states and only in 5 states, we have this provision of subsidiary organization. So the parent organization, the parent cooperative, must have 51% stake in that subsidiary, and then other 49% shares they can generate through external funding, right? So that though the cooperatives who wants to venture into the value addition processing and then high investment areas, they can basically avail this subsidiary organization provision. Coming to an election, so election is also very important area basically in order to have a crystal clear succession planning. But unfortunately, before 2011, that is the 97 constitutional amendment, hardly in 3 states we have had the cooperative election authority, which can ensure that regularity of the election. Post 2011, when these constitutional amendment also suggested to have this provision, so 10 more states adopted this provision, and now in 2023, last year, the multi-state also adopted this provision, so that now cooperatives, can avail this facility, wherein the respective government and this board basically appoints the returning officer in order to ensure that election must conduct in a transparent and effective manner. As far as the cooperative banks are concerned, there are provisions led by under the Banking Regulation Act. They have fixed the minimum percentage for the qualification of board of directors. Board size, we have a minimum 5 to 21. There are provisions in few states for representation of women and marginalized community. If there is no any such member, then that post remain vacant. Over and above these 5 to 21 cap, there is provision of government nominees, specifically in the case where the government has subscribed shares of that cooperative society, particularly at the federation level. In some states, we have a provision of 2 cooperative directors, nothing but the expert director, who can basically, as per the nature of business activities, cooperative can appoint such expert directors so that they can guide and advise on the business parts, provide technical know-how. Plus, as per the nature of business activities, we have a different department in cooperatives. So the functional head of those respective cooperatives can also participate in the board of directors meeting so that they can provide the update and then issues and challenges which the cooperatives they are facing. But this provision is there only in the case of the national level cooperative societies and in federations. The term of board of directors is 5 years, and in few states it is 3 years. So uniformity is necessary because when these state federation get membership in the national level cooperative societies, because of these variation in terms, there is always the operational issues which they basically face. Tenure of term. So as far as providing the leadership provisions to the new and upcoming members. So this is the good provisions which is there in very few states in multi-state, that the chairman should be a chairman for 2 consecutive terms only, that is the 10 years. Coming to the transparency and accountability. So broadly in all states, the cooperative needs to complete their audit within the 6 months of the close of the financial year, and they can appoint auditor from the empanel auditors, and in some states it is through a departmental auditors. Some states have mentioned the qualification of auditor, but many states are silent on these aspects. In addition to that, the government has also power to direct a special audit, but just in the case of if there is any complaint from any members complaints regarding the financial irregularities and fund embezzlement. As far as multi-state is concerned, if government has more than 51% shareholding, then only they can issue such guideline. Otherwise, it's just normal procedure. All cooperatives, they are conducting quarterly board meeting, annual general body meeting, and also special general body meeting in the case when there is any issue and amendments needs to be made. But yes, the major issue and major discussion happens in the AGM is the disposal of net profit. But the challenge is many cooperatives are silent in terms of accrual of profit, that is the variation in terms of deduction from the gross profit to arrive the net profit, and variation in terms of the appropriation of net profit also. There are mandatory provisions, the reserve fund 25%, cooperative education fund 1 to 10%, the reserve fund. So the issue comes the bad debt and bad debt reserve fund. So particularly in the case of the credit cooperatives, in some states, they have defined this bad debt reserve fund as an expenditure, which while defined in the case of the definition of the accrual of net profit. But as far as the BR Act is concerned, they are suggesting it should be, deducted while the appropriation of net profit. So that's how the operational, there are issues, as far as the accrual of net profit is concerned and appropriation of net profit is concerned. The last part, that is dividend and patronage bonus. Mostly the cooperatives provide the dividend as per shareholding pattern, but somewhere down the line, when we are talking about nowadays about the economic efficiency of the business of cooperative enterprise, and ensuring the member participation, the active member participation. So probably it is injustice with those active member participation, the member who are using the services. So somewhere down the line, I think we need to promote more this patronage bonus so that the member who are non-user, can also can become down the line the active member, though it is the duty of board of directors to understand the pain point of such non-user, why they are not, availing the services, and then accordingly made some changes in terms of their service and business portfolio so that they can, address the issues and concern of such non-users as well. So we need to have very crystal clear clarity on this aspect also, which should be encouraged, dividend and patronage bonus or both. Professionalism. So cooperatives often face, criticism for nepotism, the biased recruitment practices. So few states in India have a cooperative recruitment board. Around 8 states have the cooperative recruitment board service commission to oversee the recruitment process. Some states, they have a service rules which must be prepared and registered. In the case of multi-state also, last year they have made amendment that the service rules needs to be prepared by the multi-state cooperative societies, and it should be registered with the central registrar. And if there is any change, then it should be needs to be passed as like the way we do the amendments, needs to be passed through a resolution in the General Assembly and further submitted to the central registrar. So in order to have a professionalism, I think there is a need to have a crystal clear provisions on the recruitment part. Coming to the progressive and enabling role of the government, the most important is the dispute settlement. So in most of the states, more than in 25 states, bearing few union territories, we have the cooperative tribunal, right? The authority, the cooperative representatives authority, so that internally they can basically dissolve the disputes, address the concern of the aggrieved party. In the case of multi-state, they have established a separate quasi-judicial body called the cooperative ombudsman. So any member, regarding, they can file a complaint directly to the cooperative ombudsman regarding their deposits, regarding the equitable benefits, regarding issues affecting their individual rights, whether it is voting rights or any sort of rights and responsibilities. And further, every cooperative societies, every multi-state cooperative society is now mandated to appoint or designate the cooperative information officer. So this cooperative information officer acts as an extended arms and then spokesperson of extended arms of the cooperative ombudsman and spokesperson of the multi-state cooperative societies, so that he or she can manage the information dissemination. Whatever the members, if members wants to know about any information, they can first approach to cooperative information officer. If the cooperative information officer failed, or if the member is not satisfied with the information provided, then he can appeal to cooperative ombudsman. So that is how the responsible governance framework established with this establishment of quasi-judicial body. The winding up of liquidation. So here also in winding up of liquidation, there is a variation across the country. So the registrar appoints the liquidator and then try to gauge whether that cooperatives has potential to revive or not. So it is mandated to give report within 6 months. But the proceedings of these liquidation takes more than 2 to 6 years or beyond that also, So this becomes very, issue for, addressing the services of the members of, that region, basically. The people are coming together from the society for providing the typical services. So if the society get, liquidated, so people are suffering from getting those kind of services. So there is so the period of quick disposal of or delinking or deregistration of the society is very lengthy, and the law is silent if on the part whether once the society gets liquidated in that region, can we start a similar type of society or a different society? So on that part, the law is silent. So that is also, becomes a very issue for managing the, cooperative affairs in India. So just to conclude, the cooperative law should and must strike a balance between state authority, the influence of other sectors, actors, while maintaining the cooperative autonomy and responsibility. And essentially, the government should and must, play a role of enforcing cooperative friendly registration, ensure the ease of doing business, and oversee compliance. So the compliance becomes very essential, and many times it happens because of lack of monitoring system. Many cooperatives, basically, they don't comply, they don't submit the audited report. And then that's how then, the registrar of cooperative society then, avail those different provisions of inquiry and inspection in the cooperative societies. So what I feel to ensure the responsible governance and sustainability of the cooperative enterprise, I think cooperative societies needs to establish the code of conduct for their governance, for their business practices. So as per nature of business practices, there should be some kind of standard procedure. Scaling up, so increasing membership is also very important. Many times it has been seen that, the cooperatives, the leaders, basically, they are not bothered about the members who are not users. And there is a very least, focus and then preference on increasing membership, because the members who are owner and user of services. So we need to give more emphasis on the scaling up. Skilling. So as per the nature of business activity, besides the cooperative as an institution, the training, we need to also give focus on how we can increase the productivity and then the performance of the members, basically, as per the nature of business activity. Next, the sustainable competitiveness. the diversification. So as per the need and interest and then evolving aspirations of the people, the business diversification is the need of the hour. Like the Amul, the globally renowned, cooperatives. So if we visit the Amul stall, we'll find more than 50 plus products. And that's how they have featured into the World Cooperative Monitor report as well. So they have ensured that the different, as per the private dairy industry, as per the different products and services which is there. So to compete, to sustain in the market, they are basically coming out with a different products and services. Last but not least is the self-regulation. As I mentioned, the compliance, so very few cooperatives comply to their respective acts. So whatever the provisions are there, so as per that, basically the cooperative should, have the provision, should develop the code of conduct to self-regulate themselves so that there will not be any, intervention from the government side to inquire and inspect the functioning of the cooperative societies. So I think with this, I'll stop and then I would be happy to take questions. So thank you so much. Over to you, Naveen.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for this valuable session that we had. So yes, we have got a couple of questions at the moment. So before proceeding with the questions that we have from the participant, we have got some questions now also, and we had got some questions during the time of the session. So before proceeding with our question and answer session, we have some time for Mr. Balu's comments on the presentation and his insights that he want to add anything regarding the Indian cooperative laws and especially relating with the Asian Pacific region. So, sir, are you with us?
Yes, Naveen. Why don't we respond to the questions? I think it'd be good to take the questions and respond. I can come back later.
Sure, sir. Sure. Thank you. So, we can actually unmute the participants too, but we have got some questions in the chat box that I'm going to start with. We have one questions from Mr. Uday Shankar Prasad. He's asking what are the key features of mutually aided cooperatives, and if you can elaborate on this.
Okay. So the Mutually Aided Cooperative Societies Act is nothing but the self-reliant cooperative societies, as I mentioned. So it gives, freedom to board of directors, the cooperatives, to decide whether it is, the recruitment, whether it is the election, whether it is managing the affairs of the cooperative societies, right? So as per those, these are the key, features, key distinguished features besides the Traditional Cooperative Societies Act. So, and that's what the my remark on that, which I mentioned during the presentation. So this act passed in 1995, despite the 3 decades journey under this, complete freedom movement. Many cooperatives have been registered under that, though we have, few success stories, but this has resulted a complete autonomy to a director, followed by, subsequently the monopoly of the director, which has increased the gap between the governance, the directors, and then the members, right? So because we could not get a kind of a success story out of, registering out of the mutually aided cooperative societies, probably the complete freedom is also not good. What we need is the middle way, it is the ensuring the self-regulation. So we need to have a checker-maker concept in the cooperative law so that these board of directors can made accountable and responsible for any decision which they undertake as far as governance is concerned and as far as the business operations are concerned. Right? So that's what my take on the mutually rated cooperative societies.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, sir. The other question we have is from Meenakshi Thakur. She is asking about do we have any certification course on cooperative law, financial accounting?
Yes. So here in NCC, National Center for Cooperative Education at NCUI, we have a certificate course on cooperative law. Besides, we have also developed one online learning platform wherein we have a different courses on cooperative as an institution, like the small LMS courses on the registration of cooperatives, legal compliance of cooperatives, accounting in cooperatives, financial management of cooperatives, and two separate courses on taxation, which is yet to be published and uploaded on our portal. That is the income tax implication on cooperatives and GST implications on the cooperatives. So these are the various courses available.
Okay, thank you, sir. The other question we have now is from Mr. Vishal Gupta. He wants to know what are the legal framework guidelines for converting credit cooperative societies into cooperative banks.
Okay. So in the present context, the credit cooperatives are being regulated by the respective State Cooperative Societies Act. If they want to venture into the banking business, so they need to approach to RBI under the Banking Regulation Act for the banking license. And then basically, after converting if they get the banking license, so then the Banking Regulation Acts and then Cooperative Society Act, it is a dual legislation. So both they have to follow.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Now we have three specific questions that we have got from Professor K. Ravichandran. So I just want to know first, Ravichandran sir, are you with us at the moment? Would you like to ask your question directly or? Okay. So the first question is, even after the constitutional amendment, cooperatives are not practically enjoying autonomy and independence. The case is more severe at the primary level. So what else would we like to do at the Indian corporate law framework to ease out?
I have a different view on this autonomy, independence, the fourth principle. How far my cooperative leaders, cooperators having control over their financials? How far they are working on the diversification of their business activities, and how far they are, compliant to their respective act. So probably the autonomy, the true meaning of autonomy and independence is the financial control by the cooperatives, the board of directors, and then business diversification. So if we have more revenue streams, so definitely there would not be any, requirement for the support from the government, support in terms of the financial support, which basically then, there is a provision in India. If the cooperatives are getting the funding from the, government of India or state government, then they will appoint the government nominee, maximum 3. It depends on the percentage of subscription of the share, maximum 3. So rather than, focusing on the, support from the government, I think the cooperatives needs to give more focus on the diversification of the business activities so that they can increase their revenue streams and also the compliant to the, respective acts. And plus, as per the nature of business activities, also they need to comply so that their autonomy and independence, will become intact.
Thank you, sir. The other question is, even after several amendments in the existing Cooperative Societies Act and rule and also conditional amendment that we did in 2011, the majority of individual members remain shareholders come beneficiaries. They are unable to become the actual stakeholder in the cooperative movement. So are there any amendments required in the existing cooperative law to make them the stakeholder rather than just being the shareholder of the cooperatives?
So that is how I mentioned, I think, slightly in my initial remark. The first principle, open and voluntary membership. Again, it is, sorry to say, but again, amongst cooperators, it is, misunderstood in a sense that it is not voluntary in a sense, open and voluntary, in a sense that we should not discriminate based on the class, creed, and then the social hierarchy and then kind of, categorization which we have. But at the same time, the principle also tells us the member should, take some responsibility. Members should participate in the business affairs of the cooperative society. So unfortunately, most of the cooperative members, basically, they just get a membership just for sake of, or maybe, other purpose. So it's not just only the subscription of shares. It's again linked to my third principle, the economic participation. So it's not only the subscription of share, it's all about the participation in the business affairs, plus participation in the general body meetings. And as I mentioned, though we have provisions that if the members fails to transact the minimum level of services, which most of the cooperatives have not defined what is that minimum level of business services. Amul has defined, Amul has laid down that criteria. Many other cooperatives, successful cooperatives, but largely that minimum level of services also needs to be defined in the bylaws. Secondly, there is no any tracking system. So at present, cooperative societies, I'm sure, which we have also seen, they don't have that kind of data of how many member are user, the member who are non-user, non-member, but a user of services, right? So I think, so we need to, the cooperatives needs to develop the SOPs on this part. And I think that will ensure the active member participation in the cooperative societies. So, and then besides second important aspect, that is the member education. So we need to have a lot of efforts on the cooperative education, the member education, so that members will get to know about the rights and responsibility. Rather, while the membership application should have the detailing of the members' roles and responsibility. So while filing application for getting membership, I should be able to know what are my roles and responsibility by becoming the members of these cooperative societies. So I think that will also address the issue. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. The next question again from Professor K. Ravichandran again. So the question is, the global dialogue for reformulating the principles of cooperation has started. So he wants to know that, does India have anything concrete at the moment to share with the global forum, which we can derive from the Indian cooperative laws or the movement?
Very big question for me with my limited understanding and then experience. What I can suggest is, yes, I think somewhere down the line we need to ensure the self-regulation actually. So based on the 7 principles, though those 7 principles converted into a different legal forms, the legal provisions in the respective cooperative law, but I think we need to have more focus on ensuring the self-regulation. So as of now, I can say that only, the self-regulation part.
Thank you, sir. One question we have got from Sri Lanka. So the question is more around the cooperative solidarity economy. So according to the question, there are a lot of challenges that in Sri Lanka they are facing. to strengthen it. So what things can be done in regulating the people's authority in different community structures based on cooperative principles? So what exactly can be done to improve this cooperative solidarity economy in Sri Lanka?
Okay. So I think we need to have a broader system we need to establish, right? The system, in a sense, in the 21st century now, technology. So we need to have a technology adoption, because what, based on the learnings and then observation from Indian cooperatives, I think we are lacking in technology adoption and its usage. So the cooperation department should have, should ensure the technology adoption, and then, the usage, starting with for the registration of cooperatives, the compliance, and then monitoring. So monitoring is also, very essential, right? So I think they should develop a system for ensuring the regulation of the cooperatives in an effective manner, so that all the cooperatives can comply to their act. Plus, the election and recruitment, I think these are the two key areas, so that they can, have a crystal clear succession planning. So for that also, they need to have some kind of a system, so that they can ensure the newcomers should get chance to be in the governance, and recruitment, the right man with the right skill set should, sit on the right position. So these things also needs to ensure through some kind of HR policy. So as per nature of business activity or the type of cooperative sector, there should be a crystal clear HR policy. I think with these three things, technology, the election reforms, and recruitment reforms, they can, I think, ensure the responsible governance and sustainability of cooperative.
One more interesting question that we have from one of the international participants, Ms. Merel Jain Abdon. So the question is, as you have mentioned during the presentation, that there is a provision to remove the members if they are not active and non-compliant for over the years. So is there any mechanism to increase their engagement, to improve their engagement, to improve interaction between the society and the members, so that we do not need to remove them, so we can actually increase their involvement in the society? So wouldn't that be better? Do you have any mechanism in place, or we need to work on that?
So of course, that's what I mentioned. So law just have that provision, right, which I mentioned. So there are provisions of withdrawal of membership. It is whether voluntary or whether, the termination of membership. So there are provisions. The key criteria which I have mentioned. So to ensure the active participation of members, law will not specify anything. Law has given that provision. So it is cooperatives have to develop that kind of a strategy, the code of conduct, so that they can ensure the active member participation. That's what I mentioned. Like the member who are non-user, so why basically they are not availing the services? So it is a duty of board of directors and then of course the management, to understand the pain point. So why they are not availing services? Let's say dairy farmer, why he is not pouring milk to his or her dairy cooperative society? If he is a dairy farmer, certainly he is milking animal. So somewhere must be selling. So where is he selling? To a private? So why private? So understanding such members' concern, I think, is important. So it is, I think, what I feel, it is a duty of the board of directors and then management to discuss with those, members and understand, and then, make changes accordingly. So law is just provide those kind of provisions basically. And further to it, as I mentioned, so we don't have that tracking system also, though there is a provision, but cooperatives, they don't basically avail, operationalize these provisions actually. So that's what actually cooperatives have to define and develop the mechanism. Law will not say on that part anything, how to do it.
Right. Thank you, sir. I think we are now running out of time. So one last question. We have more questions, but I think I have listed down the questions and we can get back to the participants on mail with your response later. As again, we have one more meeting in after 15 minutes. So one more question that I'm seeing at the moment over here being asked by Mr. Singh from IFFDC. So the question is prevention of money laundering act applicable for MSCS credit cooperatives, or is it applicable to all types of MSCS societies? Only to credit cooperatives or all MSCS societies?
I think I have to check that. I mean, maybe I'll get back.
Okay, sure, sir. Yes, that is maybe because of the different laws that we have in general, and the conflict of nature of the general laws with the cooperative laws, that has to be checked again. So before proceeding with RD's comment, one last question that I can have here is from Ms. Priya Menon. Since cooperatives play a major role in financial inclusion and economic development, what are some innovative financial models the sector tries to incorporate within in future? So what new financial models that we can have in the cooperative sector?
Okay, so the
Just
packs actually, yeah. So the primary agricultural credit cooperative societies, the cooperative movement started with this type of society. But, unfortunately, to begin with, it was just mandated for the farmers having land on their records, they can become a member. But then subsequently, after the model bylaws, which Government of India, they have now, circulated to all the states. So in that, they have made a provisions that the all types of members, those who are looking for credit, getting some kind of a credit, they can, become a member of the credit societies. Number one. Besides the the other non-credit cooperative societies can also, are now getting the credit Kisan credit cards so that they can fulfill the credit requirements of their respective, clientele. In addition to that, one very important, suggestion made by the Ministry of Cooperation that they are strongly encouraging non-credit cooperatives to open up their, account in the cooperative banks so that, we can, in a true sense, we can implement the cooperation amongst cooperatives. So that is how the few, initiatives, as far as these financial models are concerned, undertaken. In addition to that, as far as the urban credit cooperative ecosystems are concerned, now they have, established one separate umbrella organization for urban cooperative banking sector, so that this umbrella organization basically will create that enabling ecosystem when we have now the issue of, cyber threat. So this, and it needs a very huge investment. So it's very difficult at, individual UCB level. So then this umbrella organization basically will create that kind of, models and then investment for providing the that, cyber security to UCBs. So I think these are the few initiatives as far as the financial models are concerned.
Yes, thank you, sir. So as I was saying that we have still a lot of questions, around 8 to 9 questions pending with us, which have marked it down. So again, due to shortage of time, I will be getting back to you and sharing the questions with you so that we can respond to the participants within time.
Yeah,
So,
please. You just email me, I'll respond and then you can communicate further.
So now moving further with the session, I would like to request our regional director, Mr. Balu Iyer, to have his comments on today's sessions and guide us for further improvements and to have more enlightening sessions like this in the future. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, Naveen. So 1 month with us, I think time surely flies. It's good to see you take charge, and I hope you have a productive time with us when you are here. Dr. Sagar Watkar, thank you very much for your very comprehensive and informative presentation. Law and harmonizing them are complex subjects to navigate, but going through your presentation on how cooperatives laws have been aligned, I think it's given us all a very clear understanding, much clearer understanding on the rules, both at the state and the central level, and the impact that it can have on the cooperative sector. Right at the beginning, you had mentioned that cooperatives is a way of life, and the cooperative identity is very much a part of our DNA. And so it comes down to how do we ensure that the cooperative identity, which has the values and principles, are properly incorporated, respected, uh, irrespective of the various challenges. But if we can ensure that, then I think it'll go a long way in ensuring how cooperatives perform. And in India in particular, we have seen significant legislative milestones which have shaped the cooperative movement. As you mentioned in your presentation, going way back to 1904 when the Cooperative Credit Societies Act was put in place. In 1912, the Cooperative Societies Act, and more recently with the 97th Constitutional Amendment in 2011, which recognizes the right to form cooperatives as a fundamental right. Most recently with the Ministry of Cooperation, the amendments to the Multi-State Cooperative Act in 2022. It looks like the national cooperative policy is also underway, so it will definitely give a more viewpoint in terms of how the government is looking at the cooperative sector and in terms of its development and fulfilling the motto which it has in terms of prosperity through cooperatives. Definitely, you have highlighted the challenges in terms of the regional imbalances, the membership, both in terms of the existing cooperatives and also how we need to look at membership when we look at new sectors. There is a lot of talk in terms of how do we involve the younger generation into cooperatives. And here I think how our membership structures fulfill that comes into play. Very important, you touched upon engagement between user and non-users. How do we ensure? And there were questions around that aspect in terms of member engagement. And of course, governance is a big topic you touched upon, even if the self-regulatory cooperatives are there, there have been challenges there. But is the government stepping in? Is that the solution? Is also something to consider. If cooperatives themselves have not, but does government stepping in, is that the solution? In your presentation, you touched upon the need then for professional management, looking at technology adoption and the absence of integrated training structures. And during your response, you touched upon education. I think that becomes very fundamental in order to be able to address some of these challenges that we face. The importance that we give to Principle 5 in terms of education, training, and information. While efforts are underway to see how ease of business can be put in place, how transparency and accountability and professionalism can be enhanced. But education, I think that's the key. How do we ensure that members are adequately educated on their roles and responsibilities, how training is provided, how information is shared. For me, I think that's fundamental. And in whatever has been you presented, it's not the absence of law. That has all over the years been looked into, updated. But how is the implementation taking place? I think that's the other area to be looking at. It's not the absence of law, but how these are implemented and how do we ensure in combination with education, the implementation. I think if we can focus more on those aspects, then it will go a long way in improving the functioning of the sector. So thank you very much for your insights. It illuminated a lot the complexity and challenges that we face. But it's very good to see the kind of efforts which are happening to harmonize and improve the cooperative law. Let me also take this opportunity. I see there are a lot of people, more than I was told 100 people have registered, both there are 40 plus taking part here. The research committee is a good platform for the ICAP research committee to touch upon important issues which affect the cooperative sector. So I would definitely, if some of you are not members of the committee, encourage you to become part of the committee so that we can expand the network that we have. And I would also like to request you all who are attending, if you have suggested topics that you would like to see the research committee take up as part of the future cooperative colloquiums, please do that. Along with that, if you have speakers in mind who could join and be able to present, I would like to encourage you all to do that. Both topics that we should take up and also speakers who we could invite to be part of the co-op colloquium. So again, Dr. Watkar, thank you so much for taking the time and making your very comprehensive presentation.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for this, opportunity.
Thank you. So, to apologize to all the participants. So, before moving towards the closing, our chairman to have some. So, requesting Professor Dongre, please, sir, can we have your question?
Yeah, no, I would just actually I wanted to get in with some discussion during the question answer session, but I think now is not the appropriate time to do that. But I would also respond to a few queries through my email, share a few information with Sagar as well, so that he can use it when he responds. Thank you very much, Sagar, for this, because this is a very important dimension that we have to look at about the legal framework and how far it is a facilitative one, and then what kind of restrictions we have. Special thanks to Balu for those last few words, which should have been my words as well, of asking all to explore becoming members of the committee, and in particular suggesting topics and suggesting speakers, because we really want to continue doing this. And I was telling Naveen in our meeting that maybe we should think of making it a monthly event if possible. So this would bring many of us together, and maybe the network will expand and research will become more meaningful. So I would just say thanks to Sagar, and also thanks to Naveen. This is your first event for the committee, and excellent work from your side.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for the compliment. So I would like to thank all the participants here that have joined with us. So now we can conclude today's session. So it has been very informative for me too, even after being working with Dr. Saga for more than a year. There are a lot of things in these presentations for me to learn. So got that. So I want to thank you to Professor Yaswan Dongre that he set today's sessions in the right track, and that actually helped me and other participants obviously in understanding the context of today's discussion. And it was from Dr. Sagar Vatkar, the presentation was actually very comprehensive, and that will help a lot of participants to have some references and build on their work that they are doing. And special thanks to Mr. Balu Iyer, who actually quite easily related these things that it is not just the absence or presence of laws, it is the actually how we implement the laws, and while implementing, having education at the right place, having focusing on education as much as possible will be the right track. And as suggested by Professor Dongre and Mr. Balu, I'll be sharing one short feedback form to all the participants include persons on today's session, and that the topics they want to include for us in the future, and also who are researching actually in their domain. So they can highlight their area of interest, and if they want to be part of the committee and collaborate in the future COP Colloquium events. So this one short feedback form I'll be just sharing after today's session. So that I'll be doing. So thank you to all the participants. Before we close the session, I would like to request to all the participants to switch on their cameras if possible, so that we can have one screenshot, one or two, for posting on social media. Yes, please. We are seeing few people have yes opened their cameras. Right.
You didn't ask people to smile, so nobody is smiling.
Yes, actually, we need some smile on the camera so that we can have a good capture over here. It won't be looking good if we post some sad faces on the social media. Yes, thank you, participants, for being with us for more than the promised time. It's around 1 hour 20 minutes now. So yes, we can close the session now, and looking forward to the feedback from the participants. And thank you, Professor Dongre. That yes, we will try to have this dialogue monthly. Thank you all. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Thank you. Bye bye.